Wow. It's mid-January and I'm outside without a coat in downtown Indianapolis. But it's worth it because today we're visiting Roberts Camera, an incredible little camera store with 2 locations in Indianapolis, but serving the world. Not only are they specialists in new camera gear, but also in the used camera market. We're going to give you an interview today with Bruce Pallman, the owner of Roberts Camera, and we'll look back at the 50 years with Roberts Photo and what it took to make Roberts what it is today and how they changed on an ongoing basis to adapt to the changing marketplace that we're all experiencing. I think you'll enjoy this interview, and more than anything else, I hope you enjoy learning a little bit more about what the camera business is all about and how Roberts has figured out how to make a great niche market out of this. Hi, I'm Kevin Raber with the Luminous-Landscape, and thanks for coming by today. I'm in downtown Indianapolis at Roberts Photo, and I'm sitting here with Bruce Pallman, the owner of Roberts Photo. And I think we're going to have a very interesting conversation. I've known Bruce for quite a while, and this is an opportunity to listen to what it takes to stay in business for over 50 years. And Bruce?
Well, I'd like to say that I've only been in business for 44 years, so I can tell you what it takes to stay in business for 44 years. My parents started this business in 1957, and we'd have to bring them back to find out about the 50 years or more. But this business has been an ongoing business in many forms over the course of these 57 years we've been here, and in various locations. We have been a business of adaptation, changing times. My father started this as frankly, as a retail jewelry store. Had nothing to do with cameras. And it progressed into the catalog showroom business in the mid-60s, which was a business where we sold not only jewelry, we sold small appliances, we sold luggage, just about sporting goods, you name it, we sold it. And one of the things we sold during that period of time, we started into the camera business. Now you might say, how does this mesh? Well, we bought a canned catalog, and one of the sections we could buy was a camera section. And my father said, maybe we can sell cameras. And so we looked at this, and we had 12 pages of cameras and accessories in our catalog, and that's how we started in the camera business.
Okay. I moved to Indianapolis in 2002 from New York, and I was always used to the big guys, but immediately when I needed camera gear, I came in, and somehow or other we met and kind of developed a relationship. You eventually became a dealer. We had some adventures together in Europe.
Absolutely.
We'll talk about the crazy day at the racetrack. But one of the things I've always been impressed with is the difference between Roberts and all the other camera stores I visited, and I've visited a lot of them.
Sure.
There has always been a personal relationship, a feeling of that down-home hardware story kind of place where you want to go there on a Saturday morning, have your cup of coffee, and just shoot the breeze with the guys there, because it's what this place is. There's people that are here that have been here as long as I can remember. You can always come in here and just have a casual conversation. Nobody's trying to push you out of the way, onto something new, into something different. And when you really need to know about the product, the camera, like, which is better, this brand or that brand, what would you suggest for this lens? I was thinking about this one. No, you really ought to think about this one. Have you looked at this? It really has always been a great experience. You walk out feeling good, but I think a lot of it exudes from you.
Well, it's a great experience for a lot of reasons. One of the reasons is we try and sell the customer what he wants, not what we want to sell. I mean, that's the very first thing is, you walk into so many of these stores and you say, hey, I'm looking for a Canon XYZ. And the first thing the salesman says is, have you looked at the Sony? That isn't what we do. No. You want to see an XYZ, we're happy to show it to you, happy to talk to you about it. If you want to see something else, we'll be happy to show you that. But we don't sell off. We try and sell the customer correctly.
Correct.
And we then try and let him know as much about the product as he or she wants to know. It's important not to go deeper than they want. And yet, you're right about coming in on a Saturday morning. It's like the old hardware store. It is. You can come in, you can hold the things, you can talk to people, and they'll take time with you. Now, granted, if we're busy, we'll go wait on somebody that wants to buy something.
Oh,
but you want to talk for a while on Saturday, we'll talk to you too.
But you're always available too, and I think that's also a difference. I know, I come in here and you'll come up and we'll get a handshake or a hug on a birthday, and
there you are.
Even the mom and pops that come in here, you actually walk around. I saw this the other day. This is why I'm bringing this up, because these are the little things that I recognize. But you're the guy that owns this place, but you walk from behind the counter. Bring the bag to them, and you put all the barriers away.
I will wait. I'm happy to wait on anybody. I've been working the floor for 45 years, and I started working actively in '74. I went to graduate school at night and worked here during the day, and decided after finishing graduate school I'd much rather be a purveyor of goods than a lawyer.
So you went to law school?
Yeah, I finished law school in
no
78.
Wonder. I got to watch myself.
Yeah, not hardly. But so we went on, and it started to grow from there. And probably our real growth spurt would have been the mid '80s. Was really when we started to take off and started to move much more in a direction, heavier camera department. We kind of found this was our niche, and probably a turning point for going national and finding national clients was when the Pan Am Games were here in Indianapolis. Mm-hmm. We met a lot of international people, and we met people from newspapers from outside of Indianapolis, and that was a very big market for photo stores. And we started to pick up national accounts. We picked up Time Magazine, Sports Illustrated, lots of things which kind of shot us to another level, to where we started to understand what a photo store could be, and that there were many outside markets outside of your local selling market. And that served us very well as the internet businesses started to come along, and understanding mail order came along, and you actually realized that to stay in business and be in business, we needed another metamorphosis from where we had been, and that was going to be online selling and mail order selling. At the time, it was mostly mail order, and then we moved it to online. About 1990, we made the decision to stop the catalog showroom business. We still had small appliances and salad spinners and everything you wanted to notice. But we stopped in 1990. We started getting out of that business. It took about 18 months to get out of that product and that business, and we decided we're going to concentrate on jewelry and concentrate on the camera business.
I know when I walked into your downtown location when I first got into town, it was like...
Which is what year?
2002.
Okay.
And you still had you walk in the door, and to your left and to your right was jewelry.
Watches on the right.
And it was like...
Rings on the left.
Robert's camera, and it's
and
like...
the cameras were in the back.
Yeah, you had to actually pass the jewelry to
Absolutely,
get there.
yeah.
And I remember asking somebody something like, what is this? And they said, well, as long as the parents are around, there'll be some jewelry here and watches. And
I had a good guy who was a jeweler, and he worked for me, and my real thought was, as long as he wants to stay, I was going to have jewelry available. But we could see that declining, and in about 2008, I think we made the decision to really get out of our jewelry business as well. He was retiring, and the only other person that could handle it would have been me, because I know jewelry, I can do it, I just don't want to do it.
At this point where you've gone and the retail business has kind of gone away and you've got the camera part, how many other camera stores were in town? I mean, at that point, if I remember right, where
was Ritz still in
there
business?
There was camera businesses all over the place.
And I think you might have had Hoosier Photo. You've got, everybody's in the business. You've got Target's in the business. Best Buy is in the business. Costco is in the business. Walmart. I mean, even though you don't have the camera stores, you've got lots of people who are in competition. And then, frankly, online, you've got B&H, you've got Adorama, you've got tons of competition, even though you don't have tons of brick and mortar competition.
But the brick and mortars went away. I mean,
the brick and mortars died.
You are it now. I mean, there was one that just kind of hung on for a while, and they're gone.
We're it for a lot of reasons.
And a lot of area. I mean, hundreds of miles.
Yeah. Frankly, there's nobody in Chicago per se. I mean, in the Midwest, the closest you're going to come is to us with a store might be Cincinnati, and probably is really Columbus, Ohio, or even Cleveland, Ohio. But we adapted. We realized that a brick and mortar store alone wasn't going to do it. And I said in the mid 90s, I said, the guy who figures out this internet thing first wins. And the guy that figured it out best would be Amazon. In the camera business, the guy that figured it out second best would be B&H. Sure. But it was very important to realize that you're not going to live off your walk-in business alone. While you need a brick and mortar establishment, you need to operate from somewhere. I mean, you really do. And you need to have many venues of revenue. Now, when I started noticing and working with you, you had a lot of guys, what I would call are behind the curtain guys. The Jodies and so forth that, are hiding in their little offices and they're on the phone. And it was always fun to come down and, you kind of don't walk in their office but you kind of lean against the doorway until they sort of signal you on because they're always on the phone. And it's like, I'll take 5 of those, 4 of those, I'll beat that guy's price. And, there's a lot of that goes on. And these guys, and talking to Jody and talking to a number of photographers, for example, I would talk to Jody and I know he has relationships with a lot of these journalists and press places and wildlife photographers and so forth. He's really developed a clientele, which really essentially you have, but he's sort of... Yeah, he has certainly spearheaded it and done a terrific job with it.
And kept that segment really, really going. I worked a couple times at the race with Sports Illustrated and George Tiedemann, he and I partnered and, he said, I just wait till I can come into Indianapolis and buy my stuff. And I bet... He
was here the other day.
Before race week and everything. And a lot of guys say, I'm just going to come to Indy. Let me know when you're free because I'm going to go down and visit Paul, Bruce and Roberts and get some stuff. And so they make trips out of their way to come here.
Well, you know what's funny? You mentioned George Tiedemann. He was responsible for really helping us get noticed at Sports Illustrated and hooking us up with the John Beavers of the world, Neil Leifer. Anybody who has been anybody in sports photography, he put us in touch with. And George is a terrific guy and had an awful, single-handedly, I would say, of any individual customer, he really pushed us onto a national spotlight. He had a lot to do with that.
He became a good friend. Good old little Marine guy. He's only a little guy, but he just exudes that old kind of style photographer that you knew.
Sure.
He worked his way up the ranks. He was a tough little guy, and he was loyal to a fault to the people that were his friends. I would get a call from him, hey, you want to shoot this with me? I need a second guy, or do this. It was always a pleasure working with him because it was just the best experience.
Oh yeah, and you went to a lot of good venues. Kentucky Derby, the Indy 500.
That's so much fun.
Soccer, he loved to shoot soccer too. That was where he was big.
And when I was with Phase One, I ended up selling him a Phase One system because he got tired of running around with all the gear and he started looking at sports photography as an art. And he went to the Olympics what was it, 2 Olympics ago or something, and did some amazing work.
Yeah.
While everybody's down in the field, he was up in the stands getting these great panoramas, and just he just made art out of it.
There's a guy named Rich Clarkson who has been in the sports business forever, and he runs sports workshops, and we get involved in that. But his big pitch in teaching this, and he's been doing it for 60 years. I mean, he's old as the hills. His big pitch is, it isn't about anybody can take a picture. It's about access. It's about having the access to be in the right spot. And George did that. George, like you said, everybody can be on the field. They let George up in the top of the Georgia Dome. I mean, for the Olympics in '96, exactly. Or shooting from a venue where most people can't get to, and you'll get that great picture having access. And that's
he's a good guy. But I know he's so loyal to Roberts. I mean, he won't go anywhere else to purchase something.
He's a great guy. He's retired, and he still calls once a week and buys and does good things.
He's a good guy. But I think that's what I see with whoever I've bumped into when I mention Roberts. And I've always been amazed by that, because it's something I've always believed in, especially now with what I'm doing with the Luminous-Landscape and what I did previously, and our relationship previously when I was more or less a vendor for you.
Yeah, for as long as we were trying the back business.
Yep, it was good times.
Yeah.
So you've watched this business change, and you've made some decisions. You're about mid-'90s, you said, I think it was?
Early '90s, we decided that we were going to get only jewelry and be in the photography business, and anything to do with photography. We didn't want to be in the computer business. We didn't want to be in the software business. Anything to do with imaging, hardware to do with imaging. At the time, that was our direction.
We haven't even gotten into the digital age yet. I mean, we're mid-'90s, where the word digital is just beginning to make it into spell checkers.
Right.
It's not quite there yet. We hit about 1999, and the digital time takes off. Now, somewhere, let's kind of put things in perspective along the timeline. B&H became B&H when?
Became B&H online, or became
online they started becoming a guerrilla instead of.
I would say they really, about 2004, 5.
So what they did was start to ride the crest of the digital age.
They spent money, and they decided they were going to learn it, and they threw lots of people at it, and they really had the ability to learn and begin to set it up to make it work, but not on the cheap. I mean, and even today, there's a room with 200 people taking orders.
I've been there. But that was the change of things. Right. Either folks like yourself had to start recognizing that Amazon was coming into play, and as we've coined the phrase, it was time to start looking at reinventing yourself.
Absolutely, and for us, we go, at the time we were a much smaller business, but we say, how's a $25 million business a year operate and survive in the environment we see coming? And part of what we did is we had a lot of commercial business. We were the newspaper business was huge for us, and getting to be better, and that again was part of that learning curve through the '90s. And Jody was great at finding that business, and we found out in about 2008 to 9 that was a double-edged sword as well. When the newspaper business started to crash, we said, "Oh my gosh, where's our newspaper business?" And that was so good to us for so many years. So, but during that period of time, we started to niche into the publication business and those things. Not so much studio, and maybe we put too many eggs in one basket. But we were also learning about online. We didn't have the money to to throw at it, unconditionally, like a B&H did. We started with our toe in the water, and we started learning it. And today, it's a good part of our business, and it's also been supplemented by the fact that there's third-party selling out there through Amazon Marketplace or Buy.com, and we're finding our niche in other ways.
So we'll come into that in a second.
Okay.
So anyway, so now you've got your walk-ins, you've developed an internet presence, and
Right.
that obviously is going to grow as we pull into that a little bit.
Right, and good side niche businesses.
And the side niche businesses with
Newspapers, magazines,
and
that
things
sort
like
of
that.
thing.
And it's funny that and I know at one point years ago we talked about the pro business. I mean, which was a significant amount of business,
Sure.
and from what I was experiencing at that time, and you kind of just you didn't have the right person there, so you just never even tried to move into it. You stayed where you were good at, which I think
Exactly, and there were people out chasing the pro business, like Calumet was somebody who put together a system of vans, and
yeah,
they
it was
went
pretty brilliant.
Yeah, and they went and called on studios, and they'd take their monitors, and they'd go in and turn the pro into a turnkey.
Yeah, well, I think what I
business.
think we both
was
know the
a
gentleman
good
that did
idea,
that.
yeah.
The Peter,
Yeah.
and I think unfortunately they were probably a good idea ahead of their time, and maybe management didn't quite see it, because
Right.
I still think that model, if it was ever introduced again today, could be significant for the different players that are here.
The problem is there's not enough commercial photographers
anymore,
and
that's
studio
all.
photographers to support that effort. But at the time, it was awesome.
Oh, it was great.
Peter had a great idea.
Yeah. Well, we're not here to talk about Calumet because they're not even here now. I mean,
Right, that's another giant we don't see.
Yep. And
that went by the wayside because they weren't changeable.
no. And it's kind of funny. One of the things that you must have seen here, in kind of taking a sidebar, is talk about Kodak, for example. I mean, at one point, you had refrigerators full of Kodak
Sure.
film.
Sure.
I mean, look, you have those big things in the back. It'd slide open, and there were bricks of film. And there's a company, for example. You kept seeing things happening, and you were adapting as you were rolling forward. We better get into this, or we might have to look at this, and let's slow this part down and increase this.
There's a company that invented the digital SLR, yet never capitalized on it. They probably invented it to kill digital so they could keep making film, because film made them lots and lots of money, and they could not see where digital could make them money because there was no film burn. Another company would be Polaroid.
Yep.
That said, hey, we don't, this digital thing's happening, but it's not going to happen to us. And if we don't make it happen, it's not going to happen. Well, we all know what happened to Polaroid as well.
And these will be, I think, business case models for many years to come.
Sure.
But then there's Fuji. Now I think Fuji sort of got it. First off, Fuji was a thorn in Kodak's side
Right.
during all that time, where Kodak was trying to keep them out of the country, and even though they built a plant in North Carolina and so forth, it was quite a bit of competition. It was funny, while they were trying to fight off competition rather than try to make new customers.
That's right.
And I think that's something that's always found interesting. All the companies that I've ever witnessed try to do business by bad-mouthing the other guy never succeeded. The secret was finding out how to keep your customers happy.
Absolutely.
And bring the customers in.
Absolutely. I mean, I have great relationships with my company. The ones that are still in business, I have great relationships with. I don't find, I don't have the attitude, and I think the person that's going to exist shouldn't have the attitude, how do I put all my competition out of business? The attitude is, how do I continue to do business? And it isn't a question. I look at my competition, but my competition's good for me. It makes me better. It gives, not all my ideas are original. It gives me ideas. So,
But the ideas that you had. Now I remember we went out to lunch or dinner somewhere 5 years ago or something, and you started talking about this used market. Like we're going to, like, we're dabbling in this thing. You saw something there. Tell me a little bit about what, you got the regular business and you sell a lot of new product, but there's something really happened on this used side of things for you, right?
We'd always bought used equipment, sold used equipment on a much smaller level, much smaller level than today. But we had declining margins. You have declining margins in the new business, and you're looking and saying, what else can we do that fits? And I had a gentleman that I've known for 20 years come to me and say, I know the used business and I can help you get deep into the used business. He had been in it for 22 years with another company, and this was at a CES show, and I almost missed the appointment with this guy. I mean, it really, you talk about kismet, but over the course of the last 3 years, this gentleman, we have taken this business, and my son-in-law Corey runs this business for us, from just a small little used business where we buy equipment all over the country. We buy equipment in Japan. We are set up with about 14 people. We clean and test, shoot pictures of it. We sell it on eBay. We sell it on our website. And we built this little business we're in our third year, and it's a $10 million business for us at good margins.
Well, better margins than you probably get myself.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, new margins are probably 10% if you can. I mean, this is a 35-40% margin business, and is.
And this business has more gone global than even just national, hasn't
Oh
it?
yeah, we sell all over the world.
I mean, it's.
And that's part of it's from eBay, part of it's off our website. We still do more business off the eBay portion, but it's growing. And our real goal is to get our website selling as much as we're selling on third-party markets, being a third-party market seller.
Wow.
And so yeah, it's been quite an incredible ride in the last three and a half years. We've been at it 3.5 years.
So if you're looking forward, in the sense, obviously with all these digital cameras coming in, their life expectancy of a digital camera is a lot less than a film camera. I used to buy a film camera in the 70s and lasted 10 years.
Forever, yeah.
Still shoot with it. All of a sudden, you buy a Sony 6 months ago, and last month it's like, oh God, thing's out of date already.
Well, we've got a saying: if it's on the retail floor for sale, it's probably out of date.
Yeah.
So.
But all this stuff is going to eventually turn over into used gear, and
Sure. How many cameras do you buy a year?
You know very much how much cameras I buy a year, and it's an awful lot. And we have to turn those around. I mean, the cameras I buy as new ones come available, we've got to move off and take the next batch in, because we shoot with all the stuff and we buy all the stuff that we use. As I buy it from you.
Yeah, and you want to detail it, report on it.
Yeah.
And but there's always something new.
I find it's a remarkable time to be in photography.
Right.
It's very exciting because, but it's very hard to make a decision. There are so many good products out. So let's talk about the. We covered the Kodak guys, the film guys. There's Canon, Nikon, there's Fuji now. Where did Sony come from? Panasonic, Samsung. I mean, they make refrigerators.
You're seeing the CE guys get very aggressive in the camera market.
Yeah, at one time even General Electric was doing something, and it's pretty amazing that this environment has changed. But what I'm finding interesting, and correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, I watched Fuji transform themselves into a real good camera company. I mean, they were film. There are a lot of things, mind you, based upon talking to the Fuji management. But the digital side plays a very small part of them, but it's one they take great pride in.
It's part of the face of the company, but it's 11% of their total business.
But it's a growing portion of their business, apparently.
Right.
I mean, and they've come out with a remarkable line of cameras. What the Fuji
and lenses
and X series lenses. I mean, they really figured it out. They put a roadmap out there, and they met their roadmap. And Olympus comes by and does the same thing with Micro Four Thirds. Remarkable camera gear. You know, their newest lenses, the Pro lenses they're bringing out are really,
they're
really
they're
good.
awesome. Yeah.
And you know, Samsung decides to come in with the NX1 with a spec sheet for a 28 megapixel camera. You know, that is just amazing with 4K recording capability. Wow, this, you know, these cameras are really getting good. Sony, nobody, or like, Sony is making a big name for itself. They launched the cameras, don't have the lenses, but they're getting more lenses. They've already launched the second series. I have an ASIF system. I love it.
Yeah.
You know, in-body image stabilization, which kind of gives you a hint of where they're going. And they're the ones that are making these chips. You know, they say, maybe we'll be putting a 50 megapixel chip into this tiny little camera, mirrorless. You know, and then it's mirrorless. And now we come into the Canon and Nikon guys. I mean, these are the big guys, and it doesn't seem like they're moving. Yes, they still have a grasp, but I know a lot of people.
It doesn't seem like they're moving into the mirrorless age, into the smaller, lighter, where we're seeing the demand. You know, you're still the bigger SLRs. They do have a tremendous selection of lenses available, which keeps them in the game. They've got, you know, big chip cameras. They're professional cameras that are, you know, worker user cameras are solid and strong, but you don't see them moving into this mirrorless game. And you talk to them about it, and they say, well, you know, it's still only 10% of the business, 12% of the business. It's gonna be a lot more of the business.
Just yesterday, the CEO, I think it was, of Samsung said the photography business in 3 years will be mirrorless. And
I think he's right.
They're pretty adamant about that.
I think he's right, and I'm sure, you know, Nikon and Canon, they're
they're
no dummies.
No,
there must be a lot going on, but you know, Nikon's first foray into that business was the this Nikon 1 series camera. Very, you know, nice cameras, minimal sales. Canon had the M series. I wouldn't even say a nice camera. It was a camera that was a stopgap. Maybe it was representative of a stopgap camera that they might be coming out with. But yeah, I mean, you don't see them yet out there with them, and they certainly don't talk about it.
No, and I put some sort of, you know, unless they've got some real cool system that they can dump lenses and cameras into a marketplace pretty quickly, you know, we're already in second and third generations of the other guys.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And you know, granted, there's still some limitations. I mean, you know, but the limitations were focus tracking and so forth. All of a sudden now, you know, Sony's improving on theirs, and so are Fuji and Olympus. I mean, the finders are getting much more quicker, so that they almost give a real-time look. Plus, when you're looking at a finder, you get all the data, you know, the histogram ahead of time, and all the information is there. It's, you know, I mean, I have my Nikons, and I bought a lot of Nikon gear from you. I don't pick them up very often anymore at all.
Yeah.
And I only usually just because I feel sorry for them. I say, oh, it's a Sunday, I'll take you out.
We have people coming in and saying, my traditional SLR equipment is too heavy. I'm going on a trip. I want something light. I want something easy. And
are you finding the press market moving towards mirrorless?
we don't see that yet.
No?
No, we're not seeing that. Although, gosh, the press market is also is changing so rapidly too. I mean, the newspaper business, while they have, they might have had 12 staff photographers with, with all the right equipment to shoot. Today, they're sending you out with they're sending a reporter out with an iPhone and a selfie stick. I mean, to go shoot. Really? Yeah, to go shoot. I said, well, we figure as long as the reporter's out there, they can shoot the image as well as the photographer. But we're not finding them moving toward the mirrorless yet. Maybe when they're using more video, you might find them going toward the mirrorless.
Well, they're doing a lot of that now. I mean, obviously, we watched our own Indianapolis Star go in a different direction recently.
Sure.
And, videos are being inserted more into the websites these days, and yeah, they're doing it with little iPhones and small cameras.
But they're doing it as much with they've been doing it with a lot of video cameras, straight video cameras too, which amazed me because you could do something like get a GH4, you've got a $1,700 camera that does great video.
And you can just make a still out of it anytime you want at the same time.
Yeah, and you could grab anything you needed.
So where does this leave the compact camera systems? I mean, a lot of talk now. At one point, you used to have the point and shoots. You used to have shelves and shelves of those. I walk through your store now, and there's hardly any.
Yeah. That's well, I'll tell you what. It's the phones. The phones have killed the point and shoot business, and rightly so. They're great. Oh. You can't poo-poo them. So we're looking for that person who wants better pictures than the phone, wants a little more zoom capabilities than the phone. And so that really starts with the small compacts, the interchangeable lens compacts, and then moves up to the DSLRs. And we'll see how that all fits. But, we're looking for the other products to sell, the stabilizers, the GoPro. There's these great little gyro stabilizers out there. And so we're looking, okay, these things aren't what we can sell anymore. What can we sell? What fits? There's still photography going on. Sure. And probably more pictures are being taken than ever. So how do we fit, and how do we market these new items with what the public wants? You can't tell them what they want. You can only supply what they're looking for. And again, I mean, when you talk back to the people who have failed, the Kodaks, the Polaroids, they thought they could create the demand. And they were wrong. They weren't big enough to do it.
Well, and I think now, listening to what you've said, you've actually figured your business out where you don't have just one basket. You've got a lot of baskets with a lot of different eggs, and you're adding to them all the time.
We're
so
looking for
you're
new ways to do business all the time, and new streams of revenue.
Well, it seems that you've certainly, as I used to think of businesses and life in general, it's kind of waves. One wave would hit the shore, the next one hits, and as long as you can more or less go back out and keep riding that wave in, and you seem to be doing that very well. You took this business over from your parents, and who's taking it over right now with you?
Well, my daughter and my son-in-law are very active. They've moved here from Chicago, and they've been here 3.5 years, and they're doing a great job. And they're getting it. They're figuring it out. They're learning every day. It's funny. My son-in-law originally said, when he was going to come to work here, he said, "It'll take me 6 months to get this figured out." So I mean, I could bring him up here today and say, "So Corey, so you got it all figured out?" He'd go, "Don't go anywhere. Don't leave me. I want to, I don't have it figured out yet."
But your new store is great. I would encourage any of you, and we have an audience from around the world, obviously, that one of the things that I can say that I've always been amazed is I don't usually call the big guy, and very seldom do I order from him. I mean, there are sometimes I have to, but I know I can call down here, talk to Bruce, Jody,
absolutely,
Phil, and I say, "Look, I need that new Fuji thing when it comes out, or I need this." And most of the time I get a phone, "Oh, we actually have that, so come on down if you want to pick it up." Right. And the prices are competitive. I think what I've watched, and I've been with you in your office when somebody goes, "Hey, I know they're getting this price from somebody else," and and you fumble through some papers or look on the computer screen and I say, "Yep, we can do the same thing." And you work really hard to make sure that the business comes in. You're competitive.
We want to keep it here.
And
if we can keep it here, we want to keep it here.
Yeah, and you have sources. I mean, you make a few phone calls and stuff shows up, which is, I've always been amazed by that. And the team, the staff, and the whole place.
The trick on getting the stuff to show up is having paid for the stuff the last time they sent it. That's always a good rule. Yeah. But visit us. I know he called us Robert's Photo, but visit us at robertscamera.com.
Robert's Camera. Well, it's been Robert's Imaging.
We've had all kinds of Robert's help.
It's Robert's, okay? Yeah. That's all we can say. But Bruce, I want to thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Letting me come down here, and look forward to doing this a long time with you.
We'll do it some more. I'm not done.
No?
I'll keep this stuff
We
up.
have this week, and
There you are.
you'll find
Yeah.
that we might have a project coming up where this bottle will be making a presence very
Absolutely.
soon. But you'll hear more of us at Luminous-Landscape working with Roberts in the future. We have some interesting projects planned, especially as our new website comes online. And Bruce is the kind of guy, and his staff is the kind of guys that just make it fun to do this. So you haven't heard the last of all of us together.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
It'll be a good time.
Yep.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.